soaking your nuts. Gonna ask Dr. Harlan. How you doing, Dr. Harlan?
Good to see you again.
How have you been?
I've been great, thanks.
So, soaking your nuts with Dr. Harlan. Explain to me why we need to soak nuts.
Well, every nut has a reason in life. What's the goal of a nut?
To feed me. Oh, to grow into a tree.
Good.
Ah.
But you see, part of that is you think it's for you.
Well, yeah.
But you're wrong. It's not for you.
This is nature.
It's really for the tree. The problem is that when you eat these babies, such as an almond, when you eat one of these, what happens is there's something on the coating on the outside of this that you can't see. It's called an enzyme inhibitor.
Enzyme inhibitor.
Basically what it is it's designed to prevent you from digesting it. Now, if you happen to swallow it by chance and you can't digest it, it comes out with fertilizer, a little water in the rain, and bingo, you have an almond tree.
There we go.
Great for the almond tree, not so great for you.
So we need to do what? We need to soak them to get rid of the enzyme inhibitor.
Essentially, if
Okay.
you soak it long enough,
Yeah.
the enzyme inhibitor goes into solution. It's not in the almond anymore or whatever nut you pick. And you don't have to try and digest it. Because when you try and digest something with an enzyme inhibitor on it, it inhibits your digestion. Not so good for you.
Not good for you, but good for the tree.
Good for the tree.
All right. Well, what about shrinkage? Are these things going to shrink or anything like that? Or is it just going to be a nut?
It stays the nut.
Okay.
It stays the nut. There's not a whole lot of change in the nut.
Okay. So we need to soak the nuts. So let's go ahead and do that. I want to see, what do we do? How much water do we put in it?
Essentially what we do is we drop some nuts inside.
Okay.
And just add water.
Simple. That's it.
And that's essentially how you soak a nut. Pretty elementary. Okay, we're done. No, we're not. There's more. Yes, there's more. Now, essentially what happens is when you immerse this in water, there's still crud on the nut. Now, it's natural crud. It's organic,
Organic.
yet not digestible. It's a kind of fiber that's on every nut.
Okay.
So what we do is I have this cool stuff that Sunrider makes that I like, that I put on the nuts.
And what does this do?
Well, essentially it's a surfactant that's natural and not toxic to the body in any way,
That's good.
which is good. I'm going to stir it around a little bit, and essentially looks like maybe slightly cloudy.
Okay. We did some earlier, though. We
And-
started earlier just for this reason.
And exactly, and look what we can show you.
That's all
Now,
the
if you
stuff that
look
comes off of
carefully,
it.
this grayish-looking cruddy water started out clear.
Yeah,
But what it is, it's not from the surfactant. It's from the surface of the nut. There's small amounts of fibrous material on top of every nut. Now, when you eat the nut, whether it's raw or it's roasted, you're eating that.
But is it really bad for you?
Well,
It
let's
just
just
doesn't
say
do
that-
anything.
well, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, it's organic after all.
Well, there we go.
But my take on it is that when you eat something, it's either one of two things. It's either a nutrient or it's not a nutrient. If it's not a nutrient, your body has to get rid of it. And this is something your body has to get rid of that you don't put in to begin with, so you don't have to get rid of it.
Okay. So what would we? Okay, so we soak these nuts. What do we use them for? I know we eat them. I mean, what do I do afterwards? Are they going to be kind of soggy, shriveled up, that sort of thing?
Exactly. And this is not a shrinkage issue.
Okay.
Yet, if we take these nuts and we rinse them, they're going to be wet. And what I like doing with these is I have a dehydrator, and I'll dehydrate the nuts. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take them after I rinse them and soak them again in tamari. Now I'm going to show you. That gives it a salty flavor. You can add spices.
Sounds good.
You can do all sorts of soaks that you can do to flavor the nuts.
Okay, naturally.
Naturally, just
Good.
natural substances. You don't have to use MSG. And they'll be very tasty. What I then do typically is I put them in a dehydrator for about a day or so. They come out, they're tasty as can be, and they're also different because they've been soaked.
Okay, but what if I don't have a dehydrator and so could I just leave them out on the counter or something like
Well, in
that?
Arizona, you can leave them outside. It's the summertime.
Sun roasted.
Sun roasted.
Ah.
Doesn't that sound good?
Hey.
The other thing you can do is you can leave them on a windowsill if you're in a relatively dry environment. But if you're in a moist environment, not so good an idea. You'll end up with mold. But if you have a dehydrator, not really an expensive proposition, you can just place them in the dehydrator, and after about a day or so of dehydrating at about 100 degrees or so, you've got dry nuts.
Okay.
But there's something better you can do with this.
And what would that be?
Well, basically, what you have is a baby tree. This is a baby almond tree.
Okay.
Now, once we take this nut and we soak it for an extended period of time, now we have something different. Now we have live food. Live food is amazing.
Explain. Because
Well-
you've lost me at this point. If it's this is not, well, it is live. I mean, but if we soak it for so many hours, 8 hours, you're telling me.
It's still dormant.
Okay.
It's still dormant. When you sprout it, it no longer is dormant.
Oh.
When you sprout it, it's now a baby almond tree. So the seed itself goes through biochemical changes, which actually produce nutrients for you and for me, because I'll eat some too.
Good.
And that's a wonderful thing, because you see, now you've taken a sleeping food and made it into a more nutritious food by waking it up with water.
This one was soaked. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the little tip of it, actually,
Okay.
the seed starts to separate. And after it separates, then a little bit of sprout kind of starts to peek out. That's when you know it's ready.
So it's not a leaf. It's a taproot, isn't it? That's what they call it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And what you can do with this is, it really varies according to the nut, how long you leave it. You can leave it for about double to 4 times the amount, and you'll start to notice that in 1 or 2 of the nuts. Then you know you've sprouted it successfully.
So basically, I need to inspect it and check the roots and see if it's growing. That
Pick
sort of
out
thing.
one of them. Yeah, and you don't have
Okay.
to water it because it's already being watered.
Okay. Well, do I need to rinse it? Do I need to change the water, or just leave it the way it is? Or what's your suggestion?
Excellent question. In fact, you do want to rinse it. What's going to happen is, as these enzyme inhibitors start off, you want to rinse that off. And in addition, once you get sprouting, you get additional enzyme production, and you want to rinse that off. And that prevents gas, which is a good thing.
Gas from nuts.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know people soak other things like beans, for example, because I make a lot of soup. So is it the same process? Am I just soaking them to get them soft to cook it, or is it the same thing you've been talking about?
Precisely. This is what people have been doing. Native Americans have been doing this
Forever.
Forever. It's not an unusual concept. It's just, as food has become more processed, we've had to fall away from what's actually healthy and good for us.
So I should actually do the same thing with beans and maybe get them to the sprouting process as well? Is that also better for digestion?
If you can do that, it's going to improve the digestion, and you're going to increase the amount of quality nutrients that are present, because you've turned a sleeping food into a live food.
And will that help my gas? Because it's not good with the beans. I mean, you always hear this, beans, and I know it's funny, but that's a fact.
No, and strange as it sounds, if you sprout beans, it changes that.
Well, that's great. That's good. I need to do this. This is great. We can do this at home, and it's simple, it's nutritious, and it's healthy for us, and it's organic.
And you can take these nuts and you can make nut milk. Now, when you take the nuts and make nut milk, you now have a milk substitute with no lactose issues at all, very digestible plant proteins, and it's great for you. Matter of fact, I think we should talk about it in another segment.
Okay, that's a good idea. Nut milk. And how do you spell that?
I spell it MYLK.
Why do you spell it with a Y?
Because we like it.
Mickey Mouse. Well, Dr. Harlan, it's been great. A lot of good stuff here. We can do this at home. It's healthy, it's organic, and it's good for us. Thanks again.